masculine and feminine sovereignty. And this, all of these things, all of these topics within the topic that you're talking about, for me, is about regaining the sacredness of this, the sovereignty of the masculine and the feminine. And I had my forks out and was just about to start tuning, and little Sean came running over and he's like, Lisa, the sheep has just had lambs. And the sheep aren't supposed to have lambs. We've just had some sheep that have been brought up to graze the front paddock. And so I went down, and there was two twin sloppy little lambs who were just wriggling off their little feet with their little belly buttons, their little umbilicus, dangle. And it was like, oh my gosh, here are the two twins tuning masculine and feminine sovereignty. It was absolutely beautiful. So, and then just watching the mother, just like she had this, she still had the cord coming out of her, and the cord was touching the ground. It was like, oh, the beautiful metaphors that were presenting themselves to me with this birthing of these twins. And then what came up in the tuning for, you know, the clearing of sovereignty for, and like you say, Victor, you know, the feminine within the masculine and the masculine within the feminine. It was very, very beautiful. So it was just really nice to be in that space this week, and then see, oh, this is the planets are really pushing for that, to be so as a participant in tuning into, I don't know, the collective consciousness to be there in some way. So it was really cool. And the lambs are doing well. They're awesome. They're
wonderful. Thank you. It's amazing when the life starts like that, how resilient it actually is. Like, we can just look and be in awe. Beautiful.
Yeah, so it's exactly that, Lisa. That happened on our end too. Everything about the profound, like original codes of divine masculine and feminine within oneself and within the union. This is actually the topic that's coming up. And the twins, it's these twins that we all carry, our light and dark side, that are fighting, you know, since the beginning of times, which come to the moment where they can be reunited.
And I love that this is coming up already at the beginning, because we were wondering what to share with you guys at the end as a practical tool that can be far-reaching, and actually we will do that. We will actually talk about codes that bypass all the ancient misalignments of masculine and feminine, and actually getting to the place before the damage has started. So thank you, Lisa. Amazing. I'm saying it out loud, so don't forget. We will do that during the session. So who else would like to share? What of these Venus topics is coming up for you in your life? Something about partnership, something about beauty, your home. What has been changed in few last days? Or anything else that comes to mind. It's going to be connected to these planetary moments for sure. Tai, yes.
So, hello everyone.
Hi.
So I'm going to share a little bit. Actually, I've been a bit, how can I say? I've been trying to change my space a little bit to make it more comfortable and like nicer to look and stay at home, since we're staying at home for a very long time. And tomorrow they're going to open the malls here in Thailand. So I'm thinking about going and go for shopping some stuff for home, which I never do it. Never, ever. I just have like some plants outside, but because I planted them myself, but I hardly buy stuff, you know, for decoration and this kind of stuff. So yeah, and I think this is a major topic that is quite unusual for me. So I thought that I wouldn't share, but yeah. And another thing, no partnerships, no, not really. Yeah, just like reviewing what I'm doing and like the people that I'm sharing my time. Of course, now we are mostly online. But yeah, so it's a bit difficult. But I think I'm still managing to have a good time, even like during these Zooms. How can I say, gatherings? So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Mm. Thank you, Tai. Beautiful. Uwe.
Yeah, I changed locations, so I'm in Sofia right now. So I from Bansko to the city, and I in this building where I'm living right now. Actually, here is a construction site too. So like in Bansko, I have a construction site. So and here's also a construction site. It's very interesting. So the signs are pretty clear. And also today I went floating. The first time I went floating, so I felt like floating in space. So this was really, really nice. I can highly recommend if you have a flotation tank somewhere or close by. It's like a very deep meditation, and it's really, really good. So I really enjoyed, and I booked another session for next week already. So, and these are the two things I wanted to share.
Wonderful. Well, just to reflect a little bit, actually, together with Tai and Uwe, it is about clearing the living space, which reflects the body, which is totally Venus aspect and Venus topic. And for Uwe, wherever he moves, there is a remodeling going on, showing what's happening inside, complete remodeling of a person. And then that immersion in the womb type place where we float as we floated when we were in the womb. This is getting back to the pre-birth and actually clearing things there. It is very, very significant.
And
for this
indeed,
period.
the floating, if ever it's available for you, it's really a fantastic reconnection to deeper kind of senses, because all other senses have been disabled. You don't feel your body, or there's no difference between the water and the air. So it's made to actually reach the senses that are beyond the normal senses. So yeah, indeed, recommended for deep meditation.
I would love to share what happened. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Greta. Wonderful to see you.
Hello. Yeah, I'm so happy to be here, that I finally joined. That's really cool. Thank you for holding the space. And I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this topic. As for me, this week was super challenging for several reasons. I adjusted to a new routine, to a new morning routine, waking up at 5:30 in the morning, really dedicating myself to my morning practice. And on Wednesday, I'm also doing a cleanse and restore with plant medicines. So I guess on Wednesday I had a moment where there was really like an emotional release. And my partner, poor him, he got like the whole dump kind of. and so it's also, I also have to add that since 2 weeks I'm back in Munich in a city apartment. And the past 6 weeks I've been living like the dream in nature, close to the ocean, under the sun. And it's been very challenging. And I knew it was going to be to come back to this city life, being confined into a super small city apartment. So there was a clash. And also a realization of just stepping into my feminine power and in this fluidity of not being afraid to go ahead with my dream, even if it's not clear yet, even if it's not in a concept yet, even if it's not all like set in stone, which is what the masculine would require, and just go and step into that feminine leadership of moving this thing ahead. Staying in momentum. So any thoughts are welcome from your side. How to deal with it, what to do about it.
Thank you, Greta.
Thank you. So I will just comment on when the retrograde comes in any planet. Whatever you haven't noticed before will actually move you to the place where you can see it better. So if you didn't see your full feminine potential in a clear way by the ocean under the sun, then this confinement is actually squeezing you into the pressure so that it actually has to come out. And when you hear yourself speak, even if the poor partner is on the receiving end of your frustration, it still is very helpful because you hear yourself speak, you can reflect on it after. So any changes of location or situation during the retrogrades are made to make you see better what you didn't see before. So take it as a gift and use it.
Thank you.
Yes, in the previous teas we have talked about how everything in your outside world actually completely mirrors your inside world. So, you know, there are going to be things that directly reflect what's going on in your inside. And at some point we can speak deeper about what those can be, but also it's up to you to look around and observe what is this mirroring. What exactly is this mirroring on you of your inner path? So we can talk deeper about that, Greta.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So feminine power aligning with the masculine power and looking for balance. That's what the next 5 months will be about.
Well, exactly. So now that the Jupiter joins those retrograde movements on the 5th May, 15th, they are all going retrograde all the way till September. So in September only, Jupiter starts going back forward, and then September 13, September 29, Saturn joins, and then October 5th, the Pluto joins. So like we're really going to have this period to look inside and see what goes on, what we haven't noticed well before. So few more, I would like to hear a few more inputs, what has happened, what has gone on for you guys in this period before we proceed.
I'd love to share if that's okay.
Yes, hi. Where are you, June?
I am here talking to you guys from Vietnam.
From Vietnam. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I was invited to the session today by David. I used to live in Chiang Mai, Thailand for a while. So that's where I met David. And we've been resonating as friends, soul friends. Anyway, I would love to just share a little bit about my my journey, my past few weeks, and I'm curious to hear as well your inputs around it, and also if any suggestions. It's like talking about the stars and planets. I don't have much experience as well as knowledge around it, and I'm curious to hear like how my movement and my flow here can benefits from just like knowing the movement of the universe. So yeah, talking about space, housing. I haven't cleaned my house for a while, so thank you for the reminder. Big notes. I'm gonna make a move today and just like get the house cleaned up. Second of all, which is more important, is like the relationship and the rise and the dynamic between the masculine and feminine, that I just arrived at a point of like completing a completely old cycle and put it away, emerging into this new me of a bigger me, where I see that my mission, my embodied mission and vision is to be here and allow and bring forward the experience of what's it like to lead in the feminine power, not just for women, but I feel even more drawn to men. It's like to honestly, when I look at my journey, clients that come to my flow, almost the paid one have been the man, and what they benefit from is that that emotion, that inner feminine inside of them that they don't usually admit to say, oh yeah, that's the feminine side of me, but I know that it's a feminine side of them that is attracted to me. So I'm yet not like knowing how I'm going to shape this vision. But I feel really like enthusiastic and passionate about bringing forth that message of embodying and embracing and rising the feminine, not just within the woman, but within the man. And I think that it's like for the really real big revolutionary, transformation, I think that it's more important even for the men to really acknowledge, recognize, and embody that aspect of them. Speaking of that, I don't know, because I'm not living in a man body.
Let me ask you something, June. Yeah, we
Please, yes.
this is completely what we are all here for. But even without going so wide into explaining this, we like to look at the small things that will happen in your life that will point us towards the bigger things that are actually lying, below these bigger aspects. So, like, what is something practical that stood out completely? That's something a little strange that had happened to you, maybe since beginning of the day today, or yesterday, in the last 2 days. Something significant, but something that stood out for you. That's going to be super important if you have noticed something.
Yeah, well, the thing that stood out for me the most is like the rise of energy. Like I've got so much more energy to hold space for my own personal emotional processes, as well as my partner, my fiance's emotional processes. Like I just like ride with it and feeling so powerful. But then just like, okay, bring it on. I'm here. I can do it. I can hold you and I can hold myself. So that's like the very significant change and shift that I noticed lately in the last few days.
Well,
beautiful.
Thank you. This is also a very, very useful, actually, perspective to understand that the retrogrades are not always a thing that brings us to fix something inside. If we have learned our lessons previously, then this is what happens. We are getting a surge of energy to help others in the same questions that we have already transmuted. So it could be either looking at our non-finished businesses in these topics, or holding space for others, because we're so free and we're so non-challenged in that we have extra energy to help everyone else, and that seems to be your case. So wonderful.
So the journey doesn't end when we clear everything that we have to clear.
Then we take care of
the journey then begins, because then we get the collective energies to clear and work and help with.
Yeah.
Thank you, June. Beautiful sharing. And I remembered your question, so we will answer it during the session. It will be answered for you. Just ask yourself inside now a question. May everything that is spoken at this session through others and through ourselves speak to my question and answer, and have an answer to me, and it will be answered.
So then with these beautiful inputs, we can dive deeper into the magic of Venus, because Venus is truly a magical planet, and all its symbology is the basics of practical magic, really, and it has been used since antiquity, since Greeks, since however long.
It has been used since humans were there, because Venus is called the morning star, because literally when we look at the stars at night, this is the brightest one. So stars, what is called stars, is what ancients call stars, and this is everything that shines in the sky. Later somebody said it's a planet, but all of those are actually stars. So yeah.
So the symbology of Venus, as from ancient Greeks, they have mapped it in the shape of sort of rays going out, the classical star, that how we know it, how children draw the star in the shape. But actually the shamans and then the alchemists and magicians have taken on this shape as a magical symbol, attracting the natural forces through drawing those lines. And there's a specific way to draw the lines. And then countless philosophies and groups and families of alchemists and magicians that attribute different qualities to this star, and it has been used in it's one of the most used symbols in ritualistic magic.
So maybe before we go into what it means, we want to make a connection. What is the connection between planet Venus and the star? The shape of the star, 5-pointed star, is connected to Venus because of how Venus moves compared to looking from planet Earth. And I will share the screen and actually show you a little animation so that you see what the movement of Venus looks like in the sky. So let me share screen.
Maybe you have already seen this animation, but just in case, you will understand how the symbols have been created out of the actual movements of the planet.
So here, let me know, guys, if you're seeing this. So I'm making it to full screen. Are you seeing the animation?
Yeah.
So this is Earth and Venus. So now it's starting to emerge. So this is the first star that is being formed, you see? Like, so it's a 5-petal star and it goes on. So a period to make this one star is 8 years. In 8 years of mutual rotation, one star is formed. So this is actually pointing to the cycles of 8 years that Venus kind of have these cycles. And if you think what had happened 8 years ago, you will see what happened at the same period of that Venus to Earth relationship. So last time, what had happened in 2012?
What were your thoughts? What were your, I don't know, ideas or changes? What have you seeded 8 years ago around this time? And that's where you can see how is it now 8 years later. Will these seeds flower? Something that didn't happen 8 years ago, but you wanted to. Now is the chance for it to grow.
So now we understand why the planet Venus is connected to the symbol of pentagram. And there are much, much, much deeper connections. But here we can show you how this is drawn. So like the proper way to draw this pentagram is with your right hand and starting from this point and going this way and then down and then up, down, and connecting it there. So this is now the magically empowered symbol, and we will share what are the magic uses of that symbol. So first warning is we don't do it without an intention, because once it is drawn this way, it is tied to centuries of magic and alchemy, and it already attracts the spiritual forces to gather around. Whoever has drawn it this way, the spiritual forces have actually started to gather and waiting to see, okay, so what can we do for you? And if you have nothing to do to ask, well, you will still be charged for their service to coming. It's like a cab driver who came. So where are you going? Well, no, I didn't mean to call you. Well, you have to pay because they are there already. So this is what we don't do it
without
before.
intention.
So our intention now is to share this with you. So this is why we have already spoken with spiritual forces, and I was allowed to do that now. But we will share about how to properly do this and what you can do with this symbol.
And interestingly enough, even the symbols that, like tattoos or some pendants that we use that have this symbol within, and if you're not aware of it, still attract those forces that are bound to this particular shape, and they kind of keep hanging around you and asking, so what do you want? And if you are not aware that you have to interact with it and use it, then they'll be really charging you some fees for, or just creating little disturbance. It's nothing really bad, but it's a powerful symbol, not to be used lightly.
It's a power symbol that actually has so many connections to humanity. First and most obvious one is that these 5 points in the star represent a person with a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs. So this is a human shape and form, yeah?
And it represents the perfect man. The perfect man being the man in the center that has mastered the matter with his spiritual powers.
Yes. The second meaning of it is, well, here actually I drew it a little bit more in detail. The second meaning of it is,
can you see?
Quintessence. What is quintessence? It means it deals with 4 elements, yeah? 4 main elements are fire, water, air, and earth. And the 5th element here is ether. So what 4 elements are the elements that form matter. And then the 5th element, ether, connects matter with spiritual world, with the world above. So this is spiritualized matter. So when we say 5 and we look at the pentagram, we understand that this is, okay, connecting our earth with the divine force above. Of course, always the opposite exists. So people who are not connected to the upper force, to the divine force, can be drawing this symbol backwards. And when they do that, and we don't even want to call this for too long, is that they are actually celebrating the underground forces, and this is the forces that are the opposite of the divine, so to speak. So this is why a lot of misunderstanding happens about this symbol, because there are people who are using it the opposite way, and when it points down, that points to the mirror, the dark side. So this is the light side, the other one is the dark side. And both sides are in complete equilibrium. So not one is better than the other. One is called the right-hand path, the other one is called the left-hand path. And we actually want to talk only about the light aspect of this. And the third level, of course, well, the third level of it is that it represents the perfect human, because it embodies 5 virtues that every human actually needs to develop in themselves. And this is wisdom, love, truth, kindness, and justice. So one of the ways to use this symbol is to actually draw it with your finger in this direction, how I sent it, and to actually voice out these five virtues. So wisdom, love, truth, justice, and kindness. And if you're doing this, then you're actively calling these virtues in yourself to get empowered, to empower themselves. So this is one of the legitimate reasons to actually use this symbol. And then if we go further, another symbology of number 5 is this, 5 fingers, where each finger represents one of the planets, So thumb represents, and I have to actually remind myself here, actually I think I know, the thumb represents Venus, index finger represents Jupiter, third finger represents Saturn, Sun, and Mercury. So it's possible to really call on all of these combinations of powers by consciously connected to them through your fingers. It has been done through centuries, and it it's already pre-built because a lot of alchemists have been mapping this for years.
And when you see that most of the time now people unconsciously use combinations of fingers on the photos and social situations, well, they're not just raised fingers. They all conjure forces because these gestures have been mapped to strong powers. So it's
so you know this when people kind of take photos. If you've never thought about this, one is representing Jupiter and another Saturn, and it can say, well, you know what, the Saturn takes over Jupiter, which is the Saturn is the forces of confinement and sources of how do we say it, Jupiter expansion, and this is contraction. So the forces of contraction take over the forces of expansion. So whenever you do this unconsciously, well, this is what you're saying through taking photos. So very careful with finger motions, because they all mean something, and you're calling forces that you're not even aware of. I think Anna wanted to ask something, or did you just try the Anna, did you want to say something? And I'm asking Anna from Serbia because I saw her hand. No, she didn't. She was just trying. Okay. And you, Anna? I think you were just doing the gestures. Okay.
Trying the gestures, yeah.
Okay.
So throughout the history, they have been used. In which ring the marriage ring comes. In French, it's called alliance. So it's alliance. It's not by coincidence. Well, unfortunately, we don't put the marriage ring on the thumb where it should be normally. We put it on this finger, and it brings completely different connotation to alliance through marriage.
Yeah, so this is sun. Yeah, so it's actually kind of, if you let somebody block your sun, it means you're losing identity and you are seeking identity through someone else. Whereas if you put it on the thumb, it represents Venus, and here is actual possibility of love union that is not masking who you really are and who is the sun. So it is, my spouse becomes my God, or my union becomes my God, and that's why a lot of like divorce proceedings and court cases around then getting dissolved. Whereas if we put it on the thumb, well, then it means that we are really
I'm with you for better and forever.
Anyway, just some combination of some levels of meaning of Venus and the pentagram.
So the Venus in its pure form actually symbolizes this primordial force of wild woman, the original woman. And when you saw that little animation going around and around, you could imagine that those 5 petals that you saw in the middle, the whole thing looks like a rose. That's why the symbol of Venus is rose. And throughout many generations and many traditions, all let's say emotional wounds and hurts have been healed through the power of the rose. In geometries or in any other ways, it's very powerful healing for relationships and all kinds of misalignments for women, and you know, their inner core wounds. And there are countless ways to explore what the rose and symbols of the rose are, and every woman could actually give it a little thought, how to use the actual rose, the symbol of the actual rose, the one that you can grow in the garden or actually buy. How is it associated to symbol of love and respect, and dwelling in that, cultivating the rose which eventually blooms from the heart, is a very powerful metaphor and meditation to do. So whenever you feel like you're overwhelmed and and you can't deal with your emotions, well, just to even try to imagine the rose coming out of your heart, and you will already feel the difference.
There is a question from Daniel saying that my partner and I wear our rings on our pinky finger. What might that mean? Well, pinky finger represents the Mercury, and Mercury represents the mind. So mind and communication. So it might mean that you have been connected, you know, in through your minds, and that you have a good communication, and that you have even shared some word magic together. But for deeper connections, we need a little bit more than just the mind. So just something to think about, you know, because you are empowering, whatever you do with these rings, you're empowering something without knowing, but 24 hours a day. So it becomes super potent.
So we're giving you, it's a very vast topic about the rose, about healing, about the feminine, about masculine alignment. It's very vast, so we're trying to give you little leads where you can explore, just to understand how powerful these little everyday things can turn out to be. China adopted 5-element philosophy, exactly. Yeah. So they have the system of their own. They classify everything by 5. I agree that, in my humble opinion, things are missing from their classification. So I don't resonate that much with Chinese classification. Yet they have really adopted number 5 as the basis and center of the whole philosophy. What comes under those categories, it's then another question, but number 5 is the representation of dynamic force of will in action. It's not static, it's not stable, it's not set in stone. It's the dynamic moving of divine through a human, and eventually with the spiritual control over the matter.
Yeah, that's a good question, David, about the Chinese system. And they have, you know, it has its own value, so you can explore it. What we like to come back to is, you know, the Western system that we have, you know, been born in. And, you know, the whole body of alchemy that we use is mapped on this system. So it's great to also expand with whatever the Chinese system is. But in European, in Western system, these elements are connected. Heart is connected with water, element of water, soul with element of fire, intellect with the element of air, mind, or like that Mercury that we talked about, and willpower with the element of the earth. And then with the element of the ether, there is it's a connecting power of spirit. So in spirit and soul, it's important to actually understand what are the differences. So this, either I can try to explain, or maybe you can look deeper. I don't know if it's a topic now to talk about this. but the spirit is a moving, well, it is the connection of our earth-based humanity with our higher part of humanness, connected to the divine source. Whereas soul is the animated energy that comes. So let's say the soul is coming new each time as you're born in a new incarnation. So you get the new soul, but spirit always stays the same. So you're always connected to the same spirit, but the soul kind of changes through the, not even each incarnation, but series of incarnations. So it has a task through the series of incarnations, and then you can get a new one after, for example, 25 incarnations or something like that.
So Ev mentions 5 in tarot is the number of final difficulty or challenge, the final struggle before advancing to a new development. Yes, that's why the 5 is the symbol of a man. God has its own number. Other forces have their own numbers, but man is 5. Man is the dynamic force that is actually the challenge of mastering the matter and the spirit all in one place. So it is a stage in between previous stability and the next elevation. So between 4 and 6, and 5 is always rotating and changing the status quo. So as a man, well, that's why unfortunately in our lives we can just give up the idea of a stable and peaceful flow where nothing happens, because our dynamics of 5 makes us so in a way alive and unstable that we have to keep rolling. So there's no way we can stop. We can only roll in a more harmonious way. That's what we can control. But this perpetual movement of the star rotating through us, we can't stop in our development. We can just participate in it to be smoother.
And tarot, Ev, is also connecting to completely another system that I don't know if we have time to go into. It's a Kabbalistic tree of life. And then it adds even deeper meaning of number 5, where the 5 represents the force of renewal. So then through 5, that's why Pentagon, and that's why stars are the generals. But this is completely different meaning of it, and it's important not to put them in the same bunch, but to understand from where these different meanings come. So 5 is the force of renewal. So when you say that it's a number of final difficulty, yeah, because it's before the renewal, because then the energy is unleashed, the status quo is destroyed, and then the new generation of the same thing gets to grow again. So this is yet another system, but we shouldn't bunch it in the same thing, because primary, well, you first embody this number 5 as, you know, the star in yourself, like as a person, as a human being that is connecting to the higher divine, and then we will add these additional meanings to it. Yeah.
So the safest way to go about and to get used to this pentagram is to imagine that these are 4 elements plus ether. This is what we are all made of, and this is what the whole universe is made of. And imagining that ether as a rose in the heart. For those who have seen Luc Besson Fifth Element, you know, you remember how they were struggling to put those 4 pillars and the 5th, and then it didn't work, and only when they kissed it worked. And so it's really understanding that ether is art, beauty, creativity, and love. So it is very much Venus. So if you just think in these very simple categories, that you are a sum of 4 elements, and what you as a bridge between heaven and earth are supposed to do is to connect to this energy of Venus that brings art, beauty, music, femininity, and roses, and put it in your heart. You will feel alignment just from the thought alone, you know. And if you can practice a very simple meditation, it will snap you right in place, because it's as basic and as simple as that. And then all the other meanings come on the top of it.
Uh-huh. So Amber adds, I always put rings on different fingers, thumb, middle. Is that the symbol of where my higher self is resonating that day? Well, yes, it's an interesting thought to change it. You know, literally, you can do it purposefully and do it. Well, first of all, every day of the week represents to one of the planets. Sunday is obviously sun, Monday is moon, Tuesday, so it's Lunas is Mercury. Lunas is Mercury.
Friday is Venus.
Yeah, let me see. Sunday, Monday. No, but it's important to know. Then Thursday is Jupiter, Friday is Venus, Saturday is Saturn. So every day represents another, carries the energy. This is important because when we are born, we carry the energy of that planet additional to our astrology. But when you change those fingers, when you change the ring, you're actually empowering your union with this additional element. And actually, we need to understand that alchemy is actually an active application of these principles. So one thing is that you're learning what they mean, but once that you really do this purposefully and start actually acting with it, you are actively using these principles and you are adding energy to outcomes in your life on purpose. This is when we actually start using it.
So for example, if you would want to use those fingers and jewelry to enhance some specific outcome, if you have a public speech and you really want to be better at speaking and very focused, etc., you could put on your little finger, the finger of Mercury, the ring with a crystal that promotes, clear and obvious speech. And that kind of creates circuits, energetic circuits that add to your original state and, infuse somewhat of more clarity and more power to what you do. So these are basic little gestures that instead of doing them, in random way, you can actually give them a meaning. Or if you can also remap and give your specific meaning to your piece of jewelry and the finger that you'll be wearing it. So you remap from default structure your personal. So your intention will always be on the top of what it means on its own. So for example, I would have this finger here, this ring here in the middle because it doesn't fit anywhere else, but I declared that for me, in my system, this crystal, which actually promotes some sort of structured speech, is mapped to this particular meaning. And like this, we create our little, helping rituals.
Yeah. So Gail shared that she dreamed about the rose, had a lucid dream where she was floating above her physical body and she saw a red rose and a sword hovering above her physical body, as if they were symbolizing something. Well, yes, rose and sword would be symbolizing on different levels, different things, male and female energies, potentiality.
In the book Sacred Sexuality of Anaya Sophia, so she speaks about the rose and the sword as principles of divine masculine and feminine, and how they combine in various ways. It's very vast. We have no time to explore that, but yes, it's a thing, girl. So.
And it is the book is called Sacred Sexuality and Sacred Sexual Union by Anaya Sophia. Hannah says that she has writing a song today and wrote a line remembering the preciousness of sacred flower in the heart. Wow, yes. without not even knowing what it literally means. Amazing.
Yeah,
Yes.
you see that for those of you who have heard of ascended masters and working with them, so they also, Mother Mary has been associated to less with Venus, that's more esoteric, behind the scenes connection, but she has been associated with roses, and you know, we plant roses and we offer roses to Mother Mary and to Mary Magdalene. So there's always like the symbol of one red rose, as you can see it around Jesus also most of the time. And it is the symbol of threshold to the divine. Through this divine perfection of this particular flower that has the smell, the shape, and the color of the noble, it's very noble essence that it carries. It is a gateway through. It's a frequency. Actually, that particular flower is a frequency. That's why it's a gateway and it's symbol. Whoever knows how to enter in that symbol can actually pierce through and perceive the mysteries that are connected to it.
So at this point, I would like to see if you have some questions so far, because we will be getting into actually using this in a practical way. So we will be showing you two things: how to use this symbol of the pentagram, how to map it, and then also how to map another geometry and to go before the original split between men and women.
Mm-hmm. So just Eve, yes, Magdalene Rose lineage, yes, there is a whole divine feminine codes carried through the Magdalene Rose lineage. Yes, it's also a thing, and it's not a coincidence. It's not Margarita lineage or some other flower, because rose is the frequency. That's why it has this very particular connection. And even if you smell the rose, just allow yourself to drift into that smell and geometry of the flower, you'll be connected to Venus, and Venus will be connecting you to your feminine essence wherever you're at it at any moment.
So literally these associations are there in order for you to finally get them from the mind. They enter through the mind. We learn them through the mind, but they have to translate themselves into the certain frequency in the body. And through that frequency, then you can actually connect to the real energy of what all this represents. Because we don't have in our vocabulary the word for the Venus vibration. So we cannot really understand what it means except give ourselves all these associations until they are so much embodied, so much part of our second nature, then in meditation we can put them all together and put ourselves into resonance with this cosmic principle. And in this cosmic principle, then we can really connect, open the channel, almost like on the radio, and communicate on that channel. So when we say, I communicate with the Venus, it doesn't mean I communicate with the planet Venus. Planet Venus was one of the bunch of the associations that helped me get into the original frequency that these associations bring. So it puts me into the cosmic frequency of what is meant by Venus energy. And on that radio station, a bunch of ascended masters speak to us. And then we get messages from that particular channel about these particular ideas. Our only way to connect to them is through these associations when we are beginning the work. Yeah. Later you will say, aha, Venus frequency, just adjust to that frequency in your body, and you're already connecting and you're receiving that information.
And yeah, very helpful, Greta. The rose essential oil is the highest frequency, healing and precious. That's exactly right. And you, Uwe, in Bulgaria with roses and rose essence, well, take a good use of it. Because indeed, a pure rose essential oil is very precious, very expensive, very volatile. But it carries this frequency in a very, very concentrated and pure form. So if there's nothing else that you would like to keep from Venus symbology, then the rose in the heart that is awakened by a drop of pure rose oil, it will transport you, I have no doubt about it, it will transport you to this overwhelming feeling of beauty, harmony, and pure feminine, whether you're a man or a woman. Three drops of yes. Yes, Lisa.
Lisa paid $200 for 3 drops of damask rose oil last year.
Yeah.
And Greta is selling rose essence. Greta, I hope it's $200 per 3 drops. I like that price. Great.
Yeah,
it's high. Yes, wonderful. Actually, we will contact you about this. It is about that price. Well, there you go. Fantastic. So, do you have any questions about this or anything that connects to these topics before we go to some practical work? Anything that comes up?
Just a quick question, very practical one, if I can. When you start drawing the pentagram, in which direction? Because sometimes it's confusing.
So you take your right hand, and first one is the horizontal, yes? So you go from right to left.
From right to left, okay.
And Lisa, about your left-handed question, we say with the right hand, but actually if your right hand is your left hand, then do it with your left hand, yeah?
What's important is
the sense, actually.
What is it that you are mapping it to? So, you know, in the magic and alchemy world, right hand represents a certain, well, pretty much like the positive and white aspect of yin and yang, and left hand represents the dark aspect of yin and yang. So if you want to be left-handed, then you have to really mirror all the ancient symbology yourself. So you have to take this responsibility that you will really mirror everything. Otherwise, you just go with what has been imbued with the meaning before. So it's really up to you. Eventually, it's going to be your own system that you develop. So if you're going to be using your own pentagram, then you go with the left hand. Yes, Lisa.
So does that mean when you say mirror that when you're saying with your right hand, you start on the horizontal on the right hand side and go left? If you're left-handed, you start on the left and go right, or you just trace it backwards?
Well, the point is when you draw this first, that you are actually crossing your heart. So then you're going down. So it's actually you are enclosing your heart in the pentagram shape. So you see what happens is at the end we have this pentagram in the center and your heart is here in the center. So what I draw it like this, horizontal there, then I go down, so my heart stays inside, then I go up, then I go down, and then I close it. And then you are toning these 5 things. So you say, going down, you say wisdom, and you imagine that you are fully embodying the wisdom in your life and calling it in. Then you say love, and you fully embody and call in love. Then you go up and say truth, and you fully embody and empower truth, justice, and kindness. So when you're doing this, this is the first exercise that we want to have. And you can imagine that this pentagram shape is actually completely mapped on your body when you're doing this. And this is a great thing to do before you go to sleep or whenever you want to empower the divinity of yourself. So maybe I'll do it once again and then we can do it all together and you can just imagine it fully. Well, I guess I will guide it and you just do it with closed eyes if you would. So from the right to left, it's wisdom, love, truth, justice, kindness, and wisdom. So wisdom, love, truth, justice, kindness. And if you can, at the same time, imagine that your right hand is water, your left hand is air, your right foot is fire, your left foot is earth, and then up is ether. Then we are going even one level deeper. So eventually, maybe if you want to screenshot this, or I can maybe send a photo of this, you can map all of these things into your ritual. So there are 3 levels of meaning here.
Can I somewhere find which one is which finger?
Yes. So why don't I tell you now, and then, so, okay, thumb is Venus.
Can you write it in the chat?
Sorry?
Could somebody write it in the chat?
Yeah, I'm gonna be telling and you write, and then everybody will have it. So thumb is Venus. Index finger is Jupiter. The middle finger is Saturn. The ring finger is Sun. And pinky is Mercury. Yeah. So thumb is missing from the, thumb Venus, index Jupiter, middle is Saturn, ring is Sun, and pinky is Mercury, exactly. And then you can look up even on the internet what is the meaning of these planets, and you will see how much power we have in each of these fingers.
But really find, like to begin with, find where in your chart is Venus and understand. Last time we said understand first what day you were born, so which planet is ruling your life, you know, from the days of the week, which is your best day of the week, and then find where is your Venus. It's very useful to understand how your Venus is playing out and what is the influence. And when you know that Venus has a prominent place, then expect that this period will be really somewhat of empowering or transformational moment. And just one more word about drawing that pentagram. Yeah, it's drawn always in one line and not a contour, but in this exact way, because this particular shape has been empowered. And it has been used since very ancient times. Even I remember when I grew up, my grandmother was drawing this on the doors, around my bed. It's really a beautiful symbol of protection from, she said, evil spirits, and we're putting it on doorsteps and everywhere. In symbolic dates, all my family renewed these stars all over the doors and entrances and gates and everywhere. And I believe it worked.
Kai has asked, sorry.
So before sleeping, and when I used to have nightmares, actually, that casting a little Venus star around the bed helped to keep weird dreams away. Let's say energies that don't belong in our bedroom. So you can try that.
So Tai has asked, does Mars doesn't count? Mars counts, of course, and Mars is the center of your palm. And this is what we were saying, that it is actually projecting the force. So when you are actually healing, when you're projecting your force, you're projecting it right from the center of your palm. So that's where the Mars is. It's in the center. I will send you, okay, well I can, let's see, I have actually the illustration. I'll send you right now. Let's see if I can connect this to the chat. Do you get the image?
I have a question. Can I still ask one?
Yeah.
Thank you. So before you mentioned that every weekday has a corresponding planet. Are you doing specific activities on that day based on the planet? And where can we find, which planets are there? Because I'm also trying to work differently, not according like to Monday, Sunday. And I think everybody's kind of like with this home office situation. But I'm trying to figure out what the best way is. Thank you.
So, okay, here is, I'm going to tell it again, and you can write just like you did before. You can write it in the chat. So Monday is moon, moon day. Tuesday is Mars. And if you speak Spanish, you know that is lunes, martes. It is Tuesday, Mars day. Wednesday,
well, just to say how it acts, for example, the moon day, well, everybody's living.
Let me say all of them, and then we will go one by one. So moon, Monday is moon, Tuesday is Mars, Wednesday is Mercury, Thursday is Jupiter, Friday is ruled by Venus, Saturday by Saturn, and then Sunday by Sun, obviously. So lunes, luna, this is, everybody goes a little lunatic, as Evia says.
Emotional, beginning of the week.
I'm born on lunes, so I'm born with this moon always active kind of. I had to really clear that moon connection, otherwise it has this layer of moodiness in everything that I do. Tuesday, Mars, so it is, market day also. So we go to assert our things, and we go to sell, and we go to do activities. Wednesday is miércoles, Mercury. So this is speaking, talking, making negotiations, and actually Mercury is the master of trade as well. So this is also, well, that's the market day. Tuesday probably is activity day that we start, and then we trade. Thursday, jueves, so this is Jupiter. Friday, or viernes, which is the Venus day. And then Saturday is obviously Saturn, and then those who worship, Saturn energies, for example, in Ashtanga yoga tradition, you don't do Ashtanga on Saturdays, because this is, it is considered the energy that is not conducive to that work. And for example, the whole Jewish culture stops working on Saturdays. They don't work on Saturday. And then Sunday is Sun, obviously. So the question was, well, yes. The funny thing is that not only the day of birth counts, also all the hours within a day are mapped to a planetary energy. So then when you're born, and if you know the hour of your born, you get another, so you have two influences based on your date and time of birth. You have two planetary influences in addition to everything else in the astrology.
And just to say, like, do we use it on purpose or somehow? I think it's more being aware of that it's there, and in the moment that it becomes important to take decisions, just to check on which day and how. But you'll see, you'll have your own flow. This is adding a little bit more of awareness around what you're doing. You don't have to start kind of figuring out and mechanically putting things in certain places.
Right. Thank you so much.
Just giving the context.
Yeah, really beautiful. Cool. Thanks.
To show that it's all interconnected on every level. Yeah.
Any more questions about this?
Well, you mentioned that it's also connected to throughout the hours of the day, the different influences. So what would be the hourly influences of the planets?
I will give you, well, basically, this you will have to actually have a little bit more complicated calculation, but I can give you an app that actually calculates that for you. It's called planetary hours. And let me see if I can show you. But the idea is this, that the daytime hours are, so from sunrise to sunset is one cycle of the planetary influences, and then another, like nightly hours are mapped to these planets once again. It's called, the app is called Horacial, Horacal. And okay, so I switched off my internet, but anyway, I'll write it here. And this is only one of them. What is this? Oh, this is what it's called. And I will also send you, let me see, one file that shows hand alchemy here. I think you have now all the planets mapped on the hand. Yeah, including moon. So do you feel like we can go into this, or this is going to be too much mapping the male and female original energies?
So as Lisa beautifully shared at the beginning, this particular Venus retrograde actually goes really deep. It goes back to the original creation of male and female energy. So we've been working quite a lot. Everybody has been working a lot on detaching layers and layers of disturbances from their own feminine, masculine lineages, and then the ancestors and the collective. And we have reached the point where finally we're working on the level of original core wounds between male and female energies. So whatever we're doing right now is very, very close to before the wound. So we have Eve, who actually very beautifully embodies the name and also the principle of original feminine, and there are women among us whose souls have chosen to actually dig deep and go to the very beginning of what is the pure feminine, let's say, creation code, which is also in that Mary Magdalene Rose line. Not every woman has to do that. Most of women have a benefit of someone else doing that. And if we follow the legend of Adam and Eve, it's just a symbolics, it's the archetypes symbolizing the original wound, the original split from oneness into duality. So the collective clearing right now is happening at that level, which is very good news, because it's been years and years and years of clearing all lower levels. So during this retrograde, we will feel the call, as you mentioned in comments, seeing roses, feeling, you know, this rose and the sword, to find the ultimate unity between the male and female energies in their purest form. So this will be coming up in many different ways, through actual partnerships, through archetypes, through inner work and clearing. But it's very, very beautiful that we have reached these original creation codes at this very moment.
Should I go ahead and show them? You think it's too much, or we do? Because there are these codes that we found that you can map on your body and actually imagine and feel that we are going right to the energy of male and female before Adam and Eve, while they were in their original state, before any proverbial eating from the tree of the knowledge, and like getting into the conflicts and being taken out of the paradise and all that. All this is allegorical stories, but it is getting back to the original state. So would you like to see those codes, or do you feel that this is too like crazy?
Well, we have two Fs actually, one above the other in the screen.
Okay, well then I guess we go through that, and you try to actually use them.
Crazy, yeah, sure.
Okay, so this is the male code, and this is the female code. So you are just, so this is male, this is the female code. This is your body. So this is the spinal column, yeah? And this is your heart. So it is like a cross going through your heart. For men, they are putting that Holy Trinity, body, mind, and spirit, if you will, or right around your head. This is your pineal gland. And for women, body, mind, spirit pointing down with pineal gland here. So this is the beginning before the union. And union can be sexual union or just meditation union together. So this is how we begin. Men map this on their body. Women map this on their body. So then when we get together into the meditation or sexual union, we actually first go to the stage of combining these together. So this is then what happens, yeah? So at this point, when we are combining, we are still feeling our spinal column. We are feeling this horizontal where the heart is, but now we have the full Merkaba, energetic Merkaba. Male is pointing up, female is pointing down. So then the next step is to take it down to the level of the heart. And then it's this. So when it's taken down to the level of the heart, you can be holding your hands together in those, through creating that code of
like
creation.
So,
like this.
I
don't know if it's visible.
We have to
with
do
this.
it
Yeah.
like this.
With this, with one hand and the other. And then the same thing on the other side, yeah? So this is creating those connections on these points here. And then this Merkaba is here. And then consciously, one of these triangles starts spinning in one direction, and the other one starts spinning in the other direction. And this is where the energetic connection has been completely reset. So then we represent really the energy of divine man and divine male, divine female before the original split. So if you're able to completely take out your thoughts and actually map this geometry on and start spinning it like that, this is actually putting you into that original state before any of the misalignments happen. So I would suggest that you try. It's very, very simple. These energies are super, super simple. And but that trying to spin it in different directions, and especially while being connected sexually, is, you know, maybe a little bit of a challenge to begin with, but it's super amazingly powerful.
And if you don't have a partner to try it with, it goes also for your inner divine masculine and feminine.
Exactly.
And then you just connect your hands like that. You see, you form two circles, and you join them on the top. And if you just try to meditate with fingers like this, pointing down and then pointing up onto your heart, you'll feel a very interesting alignment of energy starting to flow, because not only these fingers represent infinity, but also your hands kind of coming on your chest form another loop of infinity.
So How does it sound?
It's very, very simplified. So.
Ev.
Hi. Thank you so much. It's been fascinating. Unfortunately, actually, I have to go because I'm giving a session around relationships. So this is perfect for me, and I am carrying this name, and my life has been very much about researching and understanding and going back to these core wounds. And I'm mind blown because I've been doing this with my partners without knowing at all what I was doing. It was instinctive and intuitive, and I remember the first time, like, yeah, anyway, it was like so clear to do this. And so yeah, I'm really curious where you got that information from, or I would love to hear more about that.
We got it from the portal of the Venus, through inhabiting this energy and actually getting it down.
So you channeled it yourself, you mean?
Well, it's almost a common knowledge. So it's all in the literature of alchemy and magic and ancient traditions. But maybe you have seen some images of fire and water, like hands like this. There are many images like this on the internet that you can see fire and water joining like this together. So it is about fire and water. So for yourself, it's your own fire and water, and with a partner, it's your combined, feminine, masculine, and reversed.
And Lisa, yes, it is definitely possible that you use it yourself we can all use it to balance our inner masculine and feminine. And it's very important that we do that because we need to be neutral before actually trying to do it in true polarity.
And you will see, if you feel emotionally challenged by a partner, if you do this, it at least takes away the charge of emotions. It doesn't solve the problem, but it takes away the charge so you can see and feel more clearly.
I think we will have a tea where I will try to explain you the wider way to build that energetic body, because this is just one part of the energetic body that then connects to the earth and to center of the universe. And actually, when we do this, we are connected to more than just the triangle. It represents like the core of the connection, but there is also connection to the center of the big galactic center and the center of the earth as well. So how does this sound to you guys? Drawing on a body, literally, not drawing. You actually meditate by actually feeling it on your body. So you feel this triangle, you feel it with body, mind, spirit. And you feel that it is the original Trinity. This is what, like the essence of the divine. If you can kind of master the essence of the divine in that triangle, if you have been, probably you need to meditate on the triangle of the essence of the divine. And then once that you have it, you put it as the triangle, pointing up and pointing down.
But Lisa, when you say drawing on the body, it's possible you can draw it on the wall with a chalk and stand against it.
That's a good idea.
So, for example, I was downloading lots of codes a couple of years ago, and actually I have mapped one like this on the bathroom wall, because my bathroom walls are not with tiles, they are painted, so I paint myself the walls. And actually I scratched this symbol in the paint, so actually it's easy for me just to stand at the level of that code, and it immediately maps on the body. So, if you have a spare wall or anything, you can draw with the chalk and stand against it, you'll feel immediately the field coming to you. So you can totally do that. So what are those codes? Codes are geometries that create a certain field of energy. So we don't attach too much to the form, but the form is necessary in order to translate the energy. Imagine that if we have made words to describe things, well, the codes and these geometric shapes actually represent giant concepts. So that's why squeezing them into even simple forms is very powerful. And it's not to be underestimated that the shape looks very simple, that it doesn't mean much. It actually has a big concept encoded behind. And for your personal geometries, you can also draw it on the body. It's very powerful as, you know, sort of tattoo. But if you have some geometry that you want to experiment and work with, well, draw it with just a marker on the part of your body and see how it feels.
Yeah, I wouldn't actually recommend tattoos because we actually evolve this inner structure through time, and then your tattoo all of a sudden is not complete, or you have changed what you map where, and then you cannot really remove it. So those tattoos are, everything is temporary. All of our understanding is temporary. I'm sure that our final understanding will be that we need one dot and nothing else, and this dot actually contains everything. Yeah. So before we are there, then we have a little bit of a symbol.
The human consciousness actually evolved from simplicity to complexity, and then from complexity back into simplicity. So that's where hopefully we're heading. Hawaiian kahuna, yes. So if you study Hawaiian kahuna wisdom, yes, I really love the simplicity yet profoundness of kahuna teachings. Any other questions? Comments?
Hey, okay, so just to clarify, with the triangles, with the male and the female first, how we're going mind, body, spirit. Is that what you're saying?
However you understand the divine trinity, you can say
the divine trinity.
Mm-hmm.
So with your divine trinity, with the masculine, when you're drawing it, when you're mapping it on yourself, so for me going, okay, divine trinity, like with the pentagram, do you just manifest it onto your onto yourself, or is there a specific way that you like to go? Okay, so I'll go here, I must go link.
I'm imagining that my head is in that triangle.
Do you start somewhere?
The center point is in the middle where pineal gland is. So like I cannot touch it because it's inside of the skull. And then I imagine that is actually around my head like this. So here is the base, and here the point is just above.
Yep. But it's like, you know, with doing a heart meditation, that, like you say, it's very important to be starting in a very specific place and taking it down, starting with the energy somewhere and taking it to the next and the next. Is that what you do? Have a very specific start point, drag it to there, drag it to there.
Depends and how it's easier for you, because for divinity, it all exists at the same time. But you can kind of say spirit, body, mind, or however you feel it. You can also say the divine infinite, divine masculine, divine feminine, however you want, whatever the trinity is for you. I don't feel it has to be in a certain order. How about you?
For this symbol, it's a set. Yeah, it's really a set that you kind of map it, the whole thing at once. Yeah, you don't draw it one by one. With the pentagram, yes, it's important to draw it from that starting point in the air with the finger, because it also activates it. This is a set symbol, a set code. So if you have imagined it once, then you just kind of put the whole thing at once on your body. You just understand your spine is that line, the horizontal line is your heart, you know, where...
I have another explanation of this, and that's really, you know, what is the frame rate of your intelligence and of your mind and of your, not your, but our, what is the refresh rate of our brain? So in that pentagram, there's so much information that in a way we have to go one by one until we really integrate it all. But at the end, once we have actually gotten it as a frequency, as a mandala, then we can call it up instantly. And we don't have to go one by one anymore. But before we really map all these elements, it takes time for the brain, unfortunately slow, to take all of those associations in.
Mm-hmm. And
Sure.
once you've gotten the feeling of any symbol, you don't need the symbol anymore. You get the frequency, you get the symbol, and it becomes a feeling.
Mm-hmm. So we got a little bit more esoteric than I thought, but it is because of this first question that came at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, anyways, just to recap, the Venus is the morning star, which is associated to pentagram, to roses, to protection, to beauty, love, creative expression, femininity,
House.
Friday, thumb, house and body. So if you're interested in diving deeper into Venus, you'll find tons of information. It's passionate, but you'll see that all these things are in everyday life, and when we pay a little bit of more of attention to our own fingers, what we put on them, to the days of the week, hours of our birth, it still gives us a little feeling that nothing is random, you know. And it's somewhat reassuring to know that nothing is random, and we all journey collectively through the same cycles. And
yeah, and maybe one more thing is that when we go through the spiritual journey, what we actually end up doing is we build, so to speak, our invisible castle or our invisible body. And that invisible body is a real body. It is the body of where we map and how we map different invisible associations, which are esoteric points with which we can later work. So we build the whole invisible body with all these meaningful shapes and energy fields and rings and where is what. And this is, as we start then working with alchemy and working with magic, if we want to, then this is the body that we use. And our physical body goes along because it kind of follows those inner parts of the body that we mapped. But the actual action happens is when I work with my Venus. And what I mean is I put that Venus energy and I infuse it in a certain intention where I want it to go. So what happens is my hand has also moved. But what has moved is where I want to infuse the energy of the Venus in the certain outcome that I'm looking for. So we start paying less attention to what our physical body is and more attention to this inner esoteric structure that we build through the spiritual journey. That's actually the underlying principle of this. And these codes that we just gave you for masculine and feminine, original masculine and feminine, will be one of your inner structures that you can call upon when you are working with actualizing male and female energy within. Just one of them. You will have many, many, many of those. And eventually it will be the body that you have built on the invisible part of yourself.
So general advice, anyways, we're just geometries. If you could see yourself on a, you know, beyond the shape, we're just geometries. So if we cultivate our geometries, then that reflects also in our physical life. And so voila, just to say, Eve, yes, the symbols of the two triangles, we can't go into that too much this time because it's a whole week of talking about what those two triangles mean.
Is there a link to the symbols, to the Saturn?
It's a complex question. We wouldn't want to go basic or simplify too much. That's why we can't really.
But here's the idea, guys. If you feel like actually for us to cover some topics, maybe send us an email and tell us, or actually today officially I will make a group for us of, I wanted to make it on that minds but nobody seems to use the mind. So I will make a secret group just for us on Facebook for now, until we transmute to something better, and put your suggestions, what you would like us to cover. Because if we go to geometry, we can really go and get to all geometrical shapes and what they mean and how they connect to planets. This is like totally part of the alchemy that we can go into. Especially Saturn is important to talk to as well. So, okay, I'll do that today, and I will send you all the links to that Facebook group for now. Maybe I will connect to Facebook and Minds group, because I know that Lisa will never go to Facebook, and I appreciate that, and I would also love to not have to go there. So I'll make two groups, one on Minds and one on Facebook, and we see which one survives, the other one we close.
So our time is up. So very big thank you for everyone who came. Yes, and we will find.
Can we see a petal video once again?
Yeah, we will close the session with a petal video, and
okay.
Just to express my gratitude for all of you showing up and sharing and taking in and being curious and awake, so that if we can collectively see how magic weaves through everything, every little thing in our lives, it's such a joy that more of us can see it this way. So very grateful.
Thank you, guys. I'll play that video now again, and I'll actually, or I can send you even the link. Big hugs to everyone. Lots of love.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Ciao. Thank you.
Beautiful faces.
Bye.
I wish I
Thank
could
you.
hug you all.
Happy weekend.
So then let's go with the Venus dance with
yes.
Earth.
Here it comes. There you go. Ciao, beautiful ones. See you next time. Mwah.